Hey everyone, they've been training for years, particularly this summer, as the high school football and sports seasons kick off. We have Roy Fuoco from the Ledger Media Group, and we have another special guest, and Mr. Duncan, I think we ought to be proud because Rod Shafer from Warner Southern will be joining us as well. Stick around, everybody, for this edition of Sports Central. And welcome to Sports Central. I'm Mark Jackson. To my right, Mr. Neal Duncan, my co-host, has a big desire today to talk about training and body fat and all sorts of good stuff, but that might have to wait till the last half of the show, Mr. Duncan, because we do have two very special guests coming up.
Is that because I said I'm hungry already? I don't know. I never know where you're going with
We
things.
were talking about...
this first segment brought to us by the Hyatt Place. We got to pay the sponsors.
Well,
pay the bills.
You know, good help is really hard to find some days.
Well, don't be so hard on yourself. Hey, it's been 2 months since I've been here, so, you know.
Done 2 weekends, back-to-back TV shows. I'm just, like, worn out.
No.
Yeah, you know, we were talking body fat and all that. Well, Rod Shafer, off camera, was talking about his new strength and conditioning coach, former Green Bay Packer, played for the Redskins and I think Carolina or whatever. And we're going to quiz him on that in a little bit. But right now, we have the man that knows all, the man behind the curtain, if you will, with the Ledger Media Group, and that's Roy Fuoco. He's been around forever. Even before Neal, Duncan, and Methuselah, but he does have a crystal ball, so to speak, about sports and particularly football in Polk County, where, yes, we're heading into it. We're right in the midst of the Olympics. Wow, that has been awesome this year. I mean, the U.S. is just smoking it. I think some of those guys on the swim team who shall I not name, probably smoking something. But the fact of the matter is, Roy, welcome aboard, and it's always a delight to have you. I think it's been a couple of years since we've had you on the show, which is way too long, so we're going to give Mr. Duncan 30 lashes after the show. And football season kicks off, I believe it's this Friday, doesn't it?
Yeah, tonight. Tonight, yeah.
I knew that.
The kickoff classic. Regular season next week, so, I mean, depending on where you want to start.
Yeah, well, let's start with tonight. What's going on?
Well, like kickoff classics, I mean, some are just as good as regular season games. Lakeland Lake Gibson, where I'm going, is they'll play it straight. You know, some teams will bring in the JVs for one quarter. They won't do live special teams, but Lakeland Lake Gibson, they'll be playing it live. Now Kathleen Lake Wales is another good matchup. Now they're gonna, bring in the JVs. They're not gonna do special teams live and all, but that's been a great matchup over the years too. So. Right off the bat, those are two good games where you can kind of see some really good talent.
Well, the kickoff classics don't count towards the win and loss. Of course, the teams who win typically add it to the record, right? But it doesn't necessarily count.
No, it don't count. And so when you do, as the season goes on, and you do previews, and you know your local teams, and you do someone from out of the area, you kind of have to sometimes count the weeks on the schedule, because sometimes someone will slip it in, and you go, no, they don't have that extra win. So
I think it's interesting you talk about the Lakeland High School and the Lake Gibson matchup tonight, but of course I think I saw the poll was just released that Lakeland's #2 preseason ranked in Class 7A, and I think there was just a great article in the Ledger about Coach Castle that was put together. The record. Obviously going to get his 400th win this season. Tonight won't count if they win, but he's 399 and 85 and starting his 41st season at Lakeland High School. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I look back when I was writing that story and it's like, wow, 40 years, it's a long time. I mean, now the 399, it doesn't include some, or it includes some wins that were taken off. After the season, a couple of years later, or a year or so later, after an investigation from a couple of years ago. But I mean, they did play the games, and those guys didn't really factor anyway. So they're counting 399. So still, like I said, impressive. It's I don't know, I've lost track on where he ranks, in Florida, but it's a lot of wins.
It's a lot of wins.
Roy, the Polk County has an unbelievable reputation as a football powerhouse in the state and has for decades. As we head into 2016, obviously there's some favorites. Neal was talking about Lakeland, which is always up there, Lakeland High School. But I know we have some other teams that are like knocking on the door, really looking good. Tell us about that.
Well, start with the small schools. Fort Meade was looking better. They were good last year, but they were too one-dimensional last year. They're just really dependent on Tyler King. This year, they look like they can be a little bit more diverse, throw a little bit more, not be so, predictable as they were as they could be last year. Victory Christian's kind of they were the last team to win a state title 2 years ago. It's a small school, sometimes hard to figure out. They lost some players that they expected back. Receiver went to transfer to Lakeland, and they lost a couple of the other top receivers to graduation. But they got a really good quarterback, Dalton Jenner. He got a year experience last year, so he's back. And then they got a receiver from Jenkins who transferred in, Samal James, who will help. So, and they play a tough schedule, so you're not going to really. They were losing games to some big schools last year, and I kept ranking them for a while because I knew they were going to get out of their district, which they did. They ended up being district runner-up. Foundation, which typically hadn't been a good team, they've improved a lot. So Victory, they should. I think they'll win the district, and then once the playoffs hit, don't know who, anybody can make a run sometimes. Then for the bigger schools. Go back to the 7A district where Kathleen and Winter Haven are in with Lakeland. One of those teams will get out with Lakeland. One of those teams can upset Lakeland. I think Lakeland has a chance to go, make a big run. But Winter Haven and Kathleen are talented enough that you never know. Now, Kathleen's got just 3 or 4 starters back on offense, just 3 or 4 on defense. So experience is going to be something to look out for early in the season. How quickly they develop, and Lake Gibson, they've been under Keith DeMeyer, they've been a real strong team year after year. Last few years though, they haven't been able to get out of the first round. And they're in 6A, so if they can get out of the first round, you never know. Maybe they can make a run. They've got a lot of talent too. Really good linebacking core. So, it seemed like it's the same teams every year, like Gibson, Kathleen, Lakeland, Winter Haven.
Do you see? You talked about Lakeland having what it takes to go a little bit further, maybe make a run at a state title, and probably, I think St. Thomas is number one again, and they've won it 2 or 3 years in a row.
Well, 2 years, 2 years in a row. They haven't never won 3 years in a row. So they're trying for that.
This is the one they're trying to do it this year.
In Lakeland, when they won 3 years in a row back from 2004 to 2006, they beat St. Thomas each time. So,
well, being around that Lakeland team, do you see a difference in them? Because I had the opportunity to see the Lakeland-Bartow game, and Bartow upset Lakeland. Probably the biggest. I think you even referred to it in the paper as the biggest upset in the county last year. But I don't want to take anything away from Bartow, but it was more the mistakes that Lakeland made and shot themselves in the foot in that game than anything. And do you think this team has evolved and taken that next step?
Yeah, and they started to do that last year. The players down the stretch talked about that game. They got a little too confident, a little too cocky. The practices after that were a lot more focused. One thing when the coaches say it, when the players say it, when everybody seems to be on the same page, they seem to learn from that. Now, the funny thing about it, they end up losing to Vieira in the playoffs, who Kathleen beat during the season, and it's funny when you kind of think, well, gee, Lakeland should have won that game. You kind of think just because you know how good Lakeland is, but other coaches were shocked when they saw that result. So, and that was a game where, they sort of shot themselves in the foot early. They had some turnovers early, couldn't get no momentum. Vieira got up early, and then was able to hold off any kind of comeback. So they've have a couple things Lakeland does to look back on to, because I think especially their offense has a chance to be as good an offense as Castle has had over there. So they have enough things in recent history to know what can happen if they get too confident or too cocky. They can't look too far ahead. And like saying, going back to that district, I mean, they saw what happened last year with Bartow, and that was a, you know, like you say, don't take anything away from Bartow, but that was one team you wouldn't have expected to upset, you know, Lakeland last year. So.
You know, football's hot and heavy. I know that the cross country and soccer and some of this other stuff is going on as well. What are you seeing there? What's happening?
Well, you know, cross country will start. Well, let's start with volleyball. They start next week, regular season. They get some classics going on now, and that'll be interesting because 2 years ago there were a lot of good, you know, outside hitters, middle hitters, you know, that you kind of looked for, and most of them graduated. And last year there were a lot of good setters. The top caliber hitters weren't quite the same as other years, and I think that'll be different this year. You know, Jenkins has one of the top hitters, and Andrea Lorenz, and you know, Lisa Bickerton's been there for like 16 years. She does a really good job with that program. Lakeland was real deep last year, probably the best team in the county. I think they went, I don't want to guess their record, because I may be missing it with someone else, but you know, Crystal Ramsey's been there, I think now 11 or 12 years, I think. And you know, and she runs a good program, seems to be able to rebuild. And they were deep last year, and I think some of their better players, at least especially on the front row, might have been their younger players. You know, they had a girl, Trinity Gerard. I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but she came on late in the season, and I'm looking. You know, I was looking at her, and she, you know, she was, you know, one of those next group that come along. Now she'll just be a sophomore. So you know, Lakeland and Jenkins typically run good programs, and then there's some good small schools that were really fun to watch last year. Santa Fe Catholic has probably the best outside hitter in the county, and a girl by the name of Sarah Merritt, who is just a sophomore, and All Saints, you know, tiny little All Saints over there in Winter Haven. You know, they have a group that's been together. They have 5 players that played together for like 3 years now. You know, they beat Santa Fe in the district last year. They'll be a strong team, but now there's 9 classifications now, too many, and so there was some redistricting. Now All Saints has to play powerhouse Carrollwood Day, who was a state semifinalist last year. So they have their work cut out for them this year.
Well, you know, Roy, we're not going to let you go. This is the first of a 2-part segment, everybody, and you're just a wellspring of information. And you know, when it comes to prep sports, you know, you've really got it down. So we got to have you back in segment number 2. But before we do that, everybody, we have a special little preview for you here. Canoe and kayaking, actually kayaking tips. And you know, kayaking's a great sport. We're in the dog days of summer. Yes, it's hot, but it's not just hot out on the gridiron or on the volleyball court or cross country. It's hot everywhere. Great way to cool off is with a kayak on the 554 lakes here in Polk County. Shannon and Jeremy have a couple of tips for us. Stick around, everybody. More Roy Fuoco and Sports Central right after this.
And we're out here at Coal Creek State Park talking about kayaking tips. And with me today is Shannon Carnevale from UF IFAS Extension, Polk County. And we're going over the different types of kayaks, gear that you should take with you, and how to prepare for getting out on the water. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I kind of want to go over a little bit of what we have here, our setups. We have 2 different types of setups here, and kind of want to go through, start a little bit with the differences in the kayaks that we've got here.
Okay, so what we have here are the 2 main varieties of kayaks. We've got a sit-on-top kayak and a sit-in kayak. Both are really great for most uses in Florida. Something you might want to consider is a shorter vessel if you're not sure what you're going to be doing. So the shorter kayaks like we both have are more multitaskers, whereas the longer kayaks, the 16 to 22 foot range, those are really for touring. So they're not great on small twisty rivers, but they're great for big lakes, long, wide rivers, that sort of thing. With the sit-on-tops, this is typically what I recommend for beginners, mostly because they're easier to get in if you fall out.
Sure.
They have adjustable foot pegs, which are also really nice for beginners because they're just starting to figure out how they want to sit in the boat. And so there's a variety of sit-on tops and sit-ins. Yours, I noticed, has a nice wide opening, probably quite nice in Florida.
Yeah, it's easy to get in and out of, really. It also has the adjustable foot pads inside, a couple of drink holders, a padded seat that adjust for how you want to sit. So it's really not that bad, but I agree with you that that's a little bit more for the beginners. But also, I mean, it lends itself to some other versatility that you might not get in this. Especially with your upward movement. You need to get to things. It can be a little bit easier in the sit-on tops because everything is open and having to reach around so much with it. Let's go through kind of like some of the different features, some of the gear that you have here in preparing and what you want to do for your day.
Okay, so with this sit-on-top kayak, it's got a couple of features that make it really nice for getting into the water. So one of those great little features that you can look for are these little straps on the side of the boat. And so you can see they clip right in there on this little hook. And what this is for is after you put your paddle together, when you're trying to get in the water, it'll hold your paddle on the side of the boat so you don't have to. So that's really great when you're trying to get in after you're in the water. And then just to set it up, what you do is you unhook this right here and pull your seat back. And then you just take these little hooks and they attach right to the little eyes on the back. And then all of a sudden, you have a padded seat. Now, I do want to bring to your attention, unlike yours, the sit-on tops do have the hard plastic bottom and there are holes that go right down. So you will inevitably always be sitting in water in one of these, which in the heat of Florida can actually be kind of nice. So that's one of the interesting features of the sit-on-top model.
Now, don't some of the sit-on-tops also offer a padded seat that you can put in, kind of like an aftermarket type of thing?
Yes, you can buy countless accessories for these things. Just like I'm sure you can buy them for your sitting kayak, the sit-on-top, you can buy a padded seat for the bottom. This came with my kayak, but it is an aftermarket feature as well. That is for holding a fishing rod. So if you're interested in doing fishing while you're kayaking, having a rod holder like that will make your life significantly easier.
Definitely. And you also have a couple of rod holders here in the back as well that I noticed.
And those are built in. Those would be a little more difficult to do aftermarket because you'd have to drill holes in your boat, but it can certainly be done.
Now, what's the compartment up here in the front of your boat?
So frequently the kayaks will have a compartment at the front that may or may not have a rubber seal around it. You can put things in there, but as you can tell by looking at the lid of this, there's a lot of condensation. Water does find its way in there. I do not recommend putting anything that can't get wet in there. That is something that people who are new to their own boat or have been using a rental boat might not think of. They're like, oh, dry storage. Generally, it's not dry.
No, and that's
Yours,
why.
however, is awesome.
Yes, well, that's also, keeping the dry bags with you. These come in a number of different colors, varieties, sizes.
And materials.
Yeah, and materials. So yours is like a really light. Mine's a little bit tough, more rubbery, and a little bit bigger too. You want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So the main features you want to look for in a dry bag are that it's something that you will actually take with you, first and foremost. I've seen some people buy really, really large dry bags and want to put absolutely everything in them. That's great if you're going kayak camping, but if you're just going out for the day, it's nice to have a small one like one of these. And basically how they work is they've got some type of waterproofing on the inside, or the fabric itself is waterproof, like your PVC version. And what you'll do is you'll just roll it down and then buckle it. And then it is, I would call, highly water resistant. But water can get in them if you're not careful, because ultimately you have to open it to get things out of it. So some of the things I like to keep in my dry bag when I go kayaking are my cell phone. This is really important in Florida. Storms can roll up really quick, so if you have a smartphone, it's really advisable to have some type of weather feature on your phone. You can download a number of free apps that will give you information on incoming lightning storms and just windy conditions, which can be difficult for a beginner.
Well, there's also a number of apps too that you can download that will actually track your paddle and your distance, where you're at, and store points of interest and things like that for you as well.
Which is also important if you're paddling somewhere new and you're not exactly sure where you started. It's nice to have a direction to go back to.
Sure.
The other things that I find are really important to have with you, if you're going to be fishing, you want to have your fishing license. You probably also want to have some form of ID, and in case you get really lost, it's nice to have some money with you. So I recommend taking your wallet, or at least part of your wallet, with you. Your fishing license you can actually now store in your cell phone. FWC has an app for that. And then if you've got a car that's relatively new, say after 1998 perhaps, there's a good chance that there's a computer chip inside your key fob, or some of our really new cars have computer chips inside the actual key. And so these, if they get wet, may not open your car, or if they do open it, might set off an alarm when you try to start it. So keeping your keys in the dry bag is also a great idea, and it helps you not lose them. So as long as you have your essentials and you have a dry bag that will fit them, you should be good to go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Sports Central. Mark Jackson and Neal Duncan alongside of me, and wow, what a great, what fantastic piece actually by Shannon and Jeremy. Kayaking is a gas. I think in fact, the last time I went was down in Fort Myers, Captive Island.
Really?
Oh, it's a fantastic area. Kayaking is a gas. Well, of course, I live on a lake, so get out there and you can go and whatever. You don't need somebody else. Like water skiing, you got to have 3 people.
Right.
Kayaking, just get out and go.
And it's a more quiet sport as well. Go out and enjoy nature. And I know we recently had an opportunity to go and do paddle boarding, and I think that's going to be on our next show. We're going to have a feature on paddle boarding, and that was a great experience.
Yeah, paddle boarding's fun. A lot of core and upper body.
Yep.
A lot more than people think. But it's fun.
Absolutely.
But anyway.
Second segment brought to us by Harry's Seafood Bar and Grill. I want to make sure we thank them for their support of tourism and sports.
Yeah, segment number 2 is also featuring Roy Fuoco, man, the myth, the legend when it comes to high school sports here in Polk County. And we're talking football earlier and ended up with volleyball. But I think Neal is chomping at the bit to get a little more back to football.
Yeah, well, a couple questions for you. The first one is, I guess we have a new school in the county playing football, if that's true, right?
Yeah, second year in a row we have a small school. I mean, they kind of came up out of the blue, Triumph Christian, and they're kind of sort of based in Auburndale area. Jordan Christian started last year, and we'll see what see what they do. They'll be independent this year, and then next year they'll both want to go into a classification, FHSA classification, which might be a little bit interesting next year if they change the playoff format.
That was going to be my second question.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because they might be switching the current format of high school football playoffs, which obviously would affect a number of teams in Polk County, because as we said in the first segment, a lot of our teams over the years have had a chance to win state championships. So what are they looking at? How would that affect
Well,
Polk County?
the classification will stay the same, and then 5A through 8A, the big schools, will still have districts, and so you still have to play district schedule to be district champion, make the playoffs. Then the runner-up will be determined by points, where you get, and you won't get them till after the season. You see what someone's record is, and then you get so many points if you beat an 8-2 team, so many points if you lost to that team. Same thing with, depending on the record, you get a certain amount of points whether you win or lose. And then and that's how they'll determine the runners-up. I mean, not the runners-up, the rest of the playoff teams. And then they'll seed the teams, and then have a bracket. Right now, they have it set up District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, and with the runners-up playing the district champion from another district, and kind of probably confusing people, and then they go down, and then it's set up in advance. You kind of know. It doesn't really matter what your record is. You kind of know, and home and away is determined before the season begins, no matter what your record is. Then they'll seed them next. If it goes through, they'll seed the teams, and based on records. The small schools won't be put in districts. They'll be put in regions, and then you'll get the points the same way, depending on if how you did against a big school or a small school. You get bonus points if you played a team bigger than you, and then they'll do everybody gets points that way. Then the best teams with the most points in each region, they'll seed them and they go down that way. I like the idea that for the big schools that they still have districts. Small school coaches are concerned, especially if they have a good team, about putting together a schedule. You know, they, you know, if you have a district, if you have to play a district schedule, then there are certain, you have certain games you have to play. So now teams are going to be wondering, you know, do you play a good team to get more points, or do you play a weaker team to get the win, even though you may not get as many points? A really good team may have trouble putting together a schedule because of that. So it will be interesting to see if it goes through. Now that I totally confused you.
Yeah, well, you know, that's nature of the beast when it comes to high school football. I think probably Texas would, maybe Oklahoma would be ranked right up there in terms of the intensity and the passion for high school football as states are concerned. But it's hard to believe anybody's less enthusiastic than they are in Polk County. You know, a lot of talk, at least in the circles that I run, that Fort Meade, you know, is going to have a fairly decent team this year. You know, a little more balanced, be a good word for it. Some of the smaller schools like, you know, Ridge, not that Ridge is all that small, but lesser known schools improved this year, gone the other direction. What's your read on that?
You know, Ridge is an interesting case because they have, I think, just 3 returning starters on offense, something like that. No, actually take that back. I think they have 8 guys back on offense. I think it's maybe less on defense. Mm-hmm. They have a really good quarterback, athlete, to put it this way, who has potential at quarterback. I can never pronounce his first name. His last name is Scott. Severian Scott, I think his name is. Who last year, as a sophomore coming in, Coach Rogers, who was there, was talking highly of him. So he's down. They moved the other quarterback that they had from last year to wide receiver because this kid's so good. Ty Eaton's he made our Super 16 countdown as a you know, college prospect. And Richard Tate's back over there. He had success over there before when he started the Ridge program. So they're a team to watch because they actually have some talent, you know, at the skill positions. And you know, can Coach Scott Tate can he put it together in 1 year? They're a team to keep an eye out for. You know, some of the other teams like Lake Will and Frostproof teams who typically have been good. They have some young players who, especially Lake Will, has some young players, skill positions. You know, can they get it together? Lake Will's been hit hard by injuries the last couple of years. They go into the season, they lost one of their candidates for quarterback, Jariah Henry, to MCL. He's gone for the year. And they, like I said, so that's what we're talking about, how teams play the kickoff classics. That's why Tavares Johnson likes the format they use, you know, is because he goes, we got to try to, you know, stay healthy, you know, get out of the game healthy, which I don't blame him. So Lake Will and Frostproof would be interesting to watch because they have 2 programs that typically have been good. They have the skill positions. Can they piece it together? You know, the young guys and get back on track.
What about cross country? We'd be doing a disservice to one of our colleagues if we didn't talk about cross country and his outstanding son and his abilities in cross country.
I've never heard of him.
No,
yeah.
no, you don't know that Zimmerman kid.
and it's funny because George Jenkins typically has good girls and boys programs. You know, you're talking about Brady Zimmerman, who was a freshman at Jenkins boys. They should be good this year because he's back and I remember talking to Dan Snell, who's done a great job with the program over the years. They have some young runners too with them. The boys and girls should be good. I mean, Dale Mescom, his girls teams typically year in and year out is one of the top teams. Emily English is back, finished in the top 10 in the state. Now they lost Tori Jung to graduation. One of the few athletes who were smart enough to go to UCF. I mean, gotta give some props to my school. But they were deep last year, and they'll be as good, and they'll be good as ever. Antonio Gomez over at Frostproof has been the boys runner of the year since he was a freshman. So Brady Zimmerman will have to, Gomez will be the kid everybody
He's
shoots
a senior
for.
this year, right? Gomez is? Or is he
Junior. He'll be a junior.
Okay. He's
Yeah.
one of those kids, we
Yeah.
have them in Polk County. They seem like they've just been at the school forever, but he's one of them. He's so good.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of the run of like Emily English and
Right.
is in that they run track and they dominate the distances in track. So you're seeing them like twice a school year. So it's almost you cover them twice as much. And now not all of them. Lakeland had some good girls talent last year. So they'll be a team to look for. And then Lakeland Christian, Mike Music has been there, forever.
Mm-hmm.
So and his programs are always good. Up and down, but even a down year, they're still winning district titles and all that. So
Yeah. Well, tonight, obviously a big night for football in Polk County, kicking it off preseason.
Well, all this information, and Roy, we certainly do appreciate you sticking around for 2 segments. Is I mean, yeah, he's so gifted with the ability to get the information out there. But the relationship with tourism and sports marketing over the years with the Ledger Media Group and putting on every June the Polk County All Sports Awards and Hall of Fame induction ceremony, there's a logistical side to it, but the athlete side and having folks to honor, we've always said is easy because obviously the relationship and the Ledger covering it, but you look at these athletes, it's second to none, I really think, in the state. And next Thursday, we open up the Polk County Sports Hall of Fame.
yeah, it was good. I was always surprised he didn't have one since he did everything else. We inducted him. There wasn't something a little bit more, and I was happy to hear that you guys were doing this, and so it'll be nice.
Well, there's a lot of talent, as Neal said, and we're certainly fortunate. I don't know if something in the water or whatever it is, but Polk County continues to pump out athletes at every single level and multiple disciplines. So it's a rather unique destination or place to be from. Roy, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Great job as always. I mean,
Good to be here. And hope I didn't confuse anybody with that.
Nope.
Trying to explain that stupid playoff.
I don't think
format.
it was your explanation. I think it's the format.
Yeah, it's complicated at best, but that's the way FHSAA decided they want to do it, and we'll see how it goes this year, and maybe it'll change again next year. It seems like it always does.
Well, they want to try to keep interest week in and week out. If there's no non-district week, every game will give you points for a potential playoff berth, and that's supposedly the goal, so we'll see.
Well, once again, Roy Fuoco from the Ledger Media Group, doing a great job on a daily basis, and we appreciate his insights. And speaking of insights, wow, you got to check out this next special feature that we have. And I tell you, the crew here at PGTV does a marvelous job putting these together. The next event, or the event that we're going to be watching here in a second, is a Ledger Super Series. Been around for a really, really long time. Dave Bierman, another Polk County Sports Hall of Famer, has been hosting this event, and we just got some great talent in tennis here in Polk County. I know Jen Myers ranked nationally, I think 50th or something like that in tennis, and then there's a number of other superstar tennis players that come out of here, and many of them started this event here. Let's check it out. We'll be back right after this. Stick around, everybody.
We have kids from all over the state come to play this. You have singles and doubles events, and a lot of good players from some academies around Florida, and local players come out to play.
Buenos días, estamos aquí en Lakeland. We are here playing a tennis tournament in Lakeland. It's a super series.
Today I won my first match.
I'm playing 14s and I'm going to play only one match today.
I served very good and was very consistent with my forehand. Score was 6-0.
6-0, 6-0. You have to make 4 points to make a game, and you have to make 6 games to make a set, and you have to make 2 sets to win.
I think around 170 kids showed up to play. It's good for the Polk County because a lot of the local players get more motivated to play the tournaments and brings a little money into the area, you know. We do the Super Series twice a year, and then we have 2 other tournaments in January and then in the fall.
Been playing for 5 years, and I train at Gazar's Tennis Academy, which is down in Kissimmee. And I travel around and play nationals and designated. But whenever I do, I play here and I really like it.
I'm trying to go pro right now. I played this tournament probably since I was 10 years old, and I won it a couple times in the 18s and 16s.
I like this place. It's so nice and organized, and it sounds childish, but I like the park by here, and it's just really fun playing.
Yeah, pretty much you start off to play futures, and you got to qualify, and they all over the world really. Florida, all over America, Mexico, international. But right now I'm going to try to stick in Florida and see if I can get going, you know.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sports Central. Mark Jackson along with Neal Duncan. If you're just joining us, shame on you. Great show so far. Roy Fuoco for 2 segments, and we have another star coming up that this is going to be fun. Great talent here today.
Yeah, this 3rd segment brought to us by the Trophy Shop, and our next guest has won a lot of trophies over the years.
Oh, you think? Doesn't stray too far from home though. First head coach at Weber International University and now Warner International University. Football's big deal here in Polk County. It is so refreshing. It's so nice to see the colleges now step up with football teams. And you know, the old phrase cradle to grave, but you know, from the pee-wees all the way, you know, through you know, the traveling teams, high school, college. You can do it all right here in Polk County. Awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're excited to have the head coach of Warner University, Coach Rod Shafer. And Coach, welcome to Sports Central.
Thanks, Neal. Thanks, Mark. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here.
Got me out of the sun.
Well, yeah, no kidding. You know, it's one of those things. You know, you've started programs, 2 different schools, you know, and so on. It's no easy task, if you will. I mean, it is tough.
Well, and it is. It takes 5 years off your life. I wasn't sure I was going to do the next one. But I'll tell you what, the most exciting thing about it is that we had no small schools. In Florida, our kids all had to leave. And so now there's a conference with 6 teams, soon in 2017 to be the largest NAIA conference in the nation. We've joined with the Mid-South and Appalachian Conference. So we'll now have 21 teams in 3 divisions or 3 conference championships, just like you have the East and West, you know, when you're in the ACC and SEC, which gives you 3 chances to go to the playoffs, gives you 3 votes. So I'm excited about it because our kids can stay home. They all had to leave before. So this is a dream. It's really one of the goals that we had starting this stuff.
Talk about this team. I know last year you were a very young team and had just decimated with injuries, and hopefully that doesn't happen this year, obviously. But talk
Yeah,
about
last year we were terrible. Just go ahead and say it.
no, that was not a
No, really,
young
it's
team
true.
with injuries.
Yeah,
We don't worry about the record.
That's a nice way to put it. No, I worry about the record. Like last year, really, those kids played hard. We were all freshmen and sophomores, and then we got stuck with a schedule that had 3 Division II schools on it, or 1 AA schools on there, 1 national champion. We had 31 injuries, 7 ACLs. We played at the last game. We had 4 defensive players that started playing for us on the team, and that were left that were healthy, and 5 offensive players. It was tough. The great thing about it, you always try to look for positive side. Those other kids got a lot of experience,
Right.
and then the hurt ones are now back. And we had a great recruiting year, probably the finest we've ever had in the 2 years. So we're pretty much sophomores and juniors. We have a workable schedule this year. We play all in ag schools except for Stetson, and I like playing Stetson because Stetson State's a good way to go, and I think we match up well with them. So we're excited about it.
You know me. I just get very excited. I'm trying not to talk over you because I have so many questions, and
We don't worry about talking over, walking over. Go ahead, Neal.
Well, the neat thing about you talk about the local talent here in Polk County, and of course we just had Roy Fuoco on the show, and you've been at the high school level in this county, and now again back in the collegiate level. Talk about the differences, and talk about a Polk County high school football player versus a Polk County collegiate player.
Well, the big difference is, first of all, our kids get coached really well. And so when you get a Polk County kid, they have winning tradition. You got to strap it up in Polk County. And we've got 7 kids from Polk County on our team right now. I think the Southeast has done a great job with more than that, as they're getting the ones in Lakeland around there. We get a bunch of Miami players too. But the big difference in Polk County is that they come in fundamentally sound, and that helps us. The big difference between high school and college is you just can't hit that much, because college kids, if you hit every day, you'd have no one standing. So you've got to cut down the amount of contact you do. But the hard part about college coaching for me is I take losing really badly. So if I lose a game on Friday night, I've got Saturday to mope around. And then by Sunday afternoon, I'm ready for the next game. The bad thing about college football, you lose on Saturday, on the way home on a bus, you got to be breaking down film for the kids for Sunday, because on Monday you're starting to practice and you're on the road again on Thursday. So you don't have time to pout much, and you just got to keep going. And that's a little, sometimes you don't have that breather in between.
Man, serious business at the college level.
Absolutely.
Little bit different game. Well, Rod, you've got you're talking about having sophomores and juniors this year. As you watch these players mature, and this is more of a generic question, it isn't targeted to one individual. What kind of differences are you seeing in these kids? Obviously, there's some physical maturity, but where are you seeing the progress in some of the kids that were, just starting out in the program, and in what areas?
Well, I think there's probably 3 areas you see a difference. First of all, most important thing, they're bigger and stronger. You have a big weight program. Even in the spring, we only practiced in the spring 2 days a week and lifted 3 days a week because we had to get bigger. And of course, as I'd said earlier to you all, we hired a full-time strength coach. It's amazing. So you see the difference just in development. A big freshman's still a puppy. But when he gets in the weight room and we get it, and we start to develop him. So that's a lot better. The other thing is, it's nice when you can go out there and call a play and they already know it. And when you're putting it in the beginning, everything started from scratch. They're all freshmen. I don't care if they're juniors. When you're putting a program in, it's still freshmen because they got to learn plays. Now when you come in, I can call plays on the first day they come in and they're ready to go. And so we did something different this year that a lot of colleges don't do it. I brought the freshmen in early. Usually they do it the other way around. They bring in the veterans and then bring the freshmen. But our freshman class coming in was so good. And because we're so young still, I brought the freshmen in first. And we kept them so that they could compete. It's tough to compete if you can't do it instinctively, if you're always thinking. So when they came in and when the veterans came back, they already knew the offense. Now there's a lot of wars. So that's the thing. The big thing is the knowledge. And the other thing is just maturity. Being able to play. It's a grueling schedule in college football. And so to be able to pick it up and move on, because you have some money games. And let's face it, when Western Kentucky plays Florida, They aren't going over there really believing it. I mean, you can talk about it. What we're trying to do is get her through a quarter, don't get them hurt, get them off, and take the $500,000 and go home. We don't have that kind of money, but we have some big schools usually that we have to play, and Stetson for us is a money game, but we really think we can compete with them.
I was actually going to ask you about that. A great segue here, because recently the game has changed in two different areas. One, the injuries and concussions, that's been well documented about steps that are in place. And now with the super conferences and the playoff system in Division I, now that their leagues are mandating what those schedules have to look like, some of those payday games are being reduced because they're wanting Division I schools or to play each other. So that's a trickle-down effect. What is your opinion on that? Because obviously those games you want to go and get that payday, but you don't want to have 4 or 5 of them and get your head beat in.
Well, and that's, I don't know, from a Division I AA, they need those games,
right?
Because that pays for their program.
Right.
You got to realize a team like Florida, they're going to make, in the one home game, they're going to make enough money. They'll probably make $12 million just on gate receipts, parking, and tickets to pay for their whole sports program. Well, when you're at Valdosta State, you need that $500,000 or $750,000 game, and you're going to take it in the chin. So that was a good thing. But now what's going on, they're squeezing them out. I'm not sure. I think the big conferences are pushing the smaller schools out, and I think that'll be a problem because everyone's not a Division I high-tier kid.
Right.
And I think it'll hurt us down the line. That's why I like NAIA. And I'll tell you what, I think that you'll find a Division III non-scholarship like Jacksonville that will continue to grow because those kids got to go somewhere. Realize this, in the state of Florida, we average 365 Division I players a year. We're always first. Texas and California switch back and forth, and Louisiana's fourth. That's kind of interesting. Yeah. But if every person, including us, could give their full amount of scholarships, 180 kids, Division I kids, have to leave the state of Florida. So, just think about that. It's an amazing deal. That's why we have to. What do we do with the other 98% of our kids that are in our school? Because everyone in Florida schools have at least one Division I kid. But what do you do with the rest of them? They got to have a place to go. So I just think that they keep pushing. It'll help us at the bottom, but I think it's going to really squeeze those Division I AA's into
Interesting. Well, it's, relatively, gosh, I'm trying to think now, 2 weeks away from D1?
Yeah, roughly. About 2, that Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend and stuff like that. When's your first game?
We have a bye the first week, so we play September 3rd. Okay. So I have my mixed emotions about that. We just had a cancellation of the schedule. It's okay, but the bad thing about that is usually make the most improvement between the first and second game. Well, we're playing Union the first game then, but they're playing the game before.
Where's Union from?
Union's from Kentucky. Okay. And we had played them last year down there, and they're here. We'll play them home. But they're going to have a game under their belt, and even though we won last year, that puts a little bit of strain on you because like I said, they'll be playing their second and we're playing your first. But after that, we give us another week to get ready, and as long as we don't get the kids hurt, we'll be fine.
Before we let you go, we got to make sure our viewers know where they can get Warner tickets. I mean, it's just, where do you play? You want to come out and watch, maybe some of the alumni that are watching and so on. Hey, I'd love to get out and cheer my old home team on again.
Well, we'd love you to come out, and first of all, we're going to play all of our games but one. All of our home games but one will be at Legion Field in Lake Wales.
In Lake Wales, okay.
And then we have one game at Lakeland Christian. But you can get season tickets if you just call our athletic director, Kevin Jones, and talk to our media guys. You can get tickets. Just call the school, and we'll take care of you. We'd love to have you out, and all you college athletes, all your high school athletes that are out there that want to come to a great game, give us a call. We'll have you on the sideline. We'll take care of you. And I'm excited about what's happening. They've moved us out of our locker room so that they can build and start building and doing stuff. So we're heading in the right direction. So we'd love to see you all come out. It'd be great.
Well, great stuff. You know, Rod, you've produced some real champions over the years, and I'm kind of excited to see what happens this year with a little more experience underneath the team's belt.
Yeah, I appreciate it. If we don't win, we ought to fire my assistant coaches.
Well,
that's what good head coaches say, right?
there you go. Well, I think you're taking a great step with your strength and conditioning coach, particularly since he used to play for the Packers. You know you're going to get some results there. But right, Mr. Duncan?
Oh yeah, go Packers.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. Rod, thanks so much. Appreciate it as always.
Appreciate it.
Well, everybody, there's a young lady that just a huge star. We were talking about running, cross-country running a little bit earlier. Tori Jung and George Jenkins High School. She's the 2016 Co-Runner of the Year. That is the Ledger's Media Group's Co-Runner of the Year. Very talented young lady. It's our Athlete Spotlight. Wow. Stumbling all over myself here, but that's okay. I start drooling in a little bit, and Neal, you just wheel me out, and then I'll be okay. Anyway, check out Tori Jung. Spotlight coming up next. Stick around, everybody.
I always liked running when I was younger. I would compete in like red ribbon runs with my elementary school. My dad was also a runner, so I was like, oh, maybe I should just try out for track. And so I was out there, and it like felt good. I was like up there like with the kids and stuff, and it was also like fun with all my friends out there. And once I started, I got into it, and it was really fun.
She was very, very quiet, almost kind of shy, kind of would step back and let other people take the lead. But as time went on, especially her junior year, she really made the big step forward and really took on that leadership position, even though she wasn't, quote unquote, in a leadership role. She really stepped forward and really started working with the younger girls, being a great example for them of how to work, not only on the cross country or track, but also in the classroom.
Throughout my high school, I would compete mostly in like Orlando and Tampa area because there's not much competition around here. I've competed in a few like open races like Foot Locker at cross country. My favorite memory would be in cross country at the state meet. I was ranked, I think, about 14th, and then I ended up finishing in 7th place at states and medaling on the podium. That was really cool. I didn't think that would be possible.
Well, she's made all county every year in cross country and track. She was runner of the year last year in cross country, and this year she was co-runner of the year with one of her teammates. She's also was first team All-State in cross country and then made All-State in track also. It takes a determination, it takes a commitment, which is huge with today's teens, youth. A lot of them don't have that commitment level. It's too easy to quit. The team being out there pushing you, motivating you, that's really what you got in the workplace. It also teaches you how to work with somebody that you may not get along with very well. I tell them you're not going to like everyone that you work with. How you approach that says a lot about you as a person.
We push each other, we help each other improve, and like we pick each other up when we're down. And running with other people, it's just easier to achieve your personal goal. And of course, like also when you achieve a team goal, it's one of the best feelings ever. While I'm running, I'm trying to like not think about the pain. Sometimes it's really hard because I think the hardest part of running is definitely the mental aspect of it. But yeah, I try to think of everything other than running and just try to hit my times, I guess. A lot of times I'll bring like the same exact food every single meet because I'm worried that maybe like it'll affect me if I don't bring this exact sandwich or this exact like side dish with it. Like I'm worried about that. Definitely, I hate this the most, the peanut butter bagel that I absolutely despise because I eat it so often.
I think she's going to be very successful no matter what she does. just because of the type of person she is. I see her, she's a driven person, she's a motivated person. Yeah, she gets down, gets depressed when she doesn't do as well as she wants to do, but she doesn't beat herself up over it. She looks at, okay, how can I use this for the next time out? How can I learn from it? And I think with that attitude, she keeps that through college, I think that's going to serve her well. She has not even reached the pinnacle of her ability yet.
In the next 10 years, I still want to have my love for running and being out there and just maybe come back and help coach the Jenkins team with my former coach. That'd be cool. You definitely need to find what motivates you and put that towards running. Use that motivation to push you to go work out and do whatever you want to do. Like, it's really helpful once you know what you're working towards.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sports Central segment number 4. Yes, I am the principal today, and Mr. Naughty over here is he's just not cutting it. Speaking of not cutting it,
I think what he's doing is called projecting. This fourth and final segment brought to us by Cleveland Heights Golf Course, great partner there, City of Lakeland, long-term, long-standing partners of tourism and sports, and we appreciate their efforts.
Y'all held the Major League Scramble there for many years, held another I believe it was a Symetra tour there that we actually televised with Bright House Sports Networks.
Sun Sports as well.
Yeah, golf is not an easy one to announce.
No.
No, you'd think, oh, you just sit there and watch and say, and it's not. It's just not.
Well, it doesn't have the up and down the court action, and so you have to find a lot of filler stuff, and it's difficult. You're right.
It's incredible. You know, I was talking earlier about doing a show broadcast last week up in Wisconsin, and then the week before in Indiana. And 3 days of nonstop, interviews, talking, and this type of stuff. I think you just get fried. You're just like, okay, I'm done talking now for about a month. It's incredible.
Well,
but anyway, hey, we got some great stuff going on. We have some super guests, and so many thanks go out to the Ledger Media Group for the unbelievable job that they do covering sports, not only just prep sports, but all sports. From archery to bowling to, Quidditch. They do it all, and Roy Fuoco, just a wellspring of information. He's really good. He really is good.
Especially
knows his
as
stuff.
You've seen how the newspaper industry has changed over the last decade or so, and the Ledger still remains committed to the citizens of this county and bringing them the best coverage, and of course on the prep side, Polk Preps. But
well, the thing I think about the Ledger that you have to really appreciate is that they've stayed relevant. And they've stayed up with it, whether it's digital, whether it's print, all of these types of things, special events now. They're getting involved in, kudos to them.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin has done a marvelous job over there and all of that good stuff. So.
I was just going to say, speaking of marvelous staff and events, don't forget the Flying Tigers are at Henley Field. I think their season runs through September 3rd, so they're coming up to the end of their season. Of course, they've been at Henley all season because of the Joker Marchant Stadium and the renovations that are going on there. So you definitely want to check out the Lakeland Flying Tigers before their season comes to a close.
Well, one of the things I'd like to ask you, because you're overseeing the Polk County Sports Hall of Fame grand opening on August 25th, and tell us a little bit about what's happening, bud.
Yeah, it's at 12 noon. We're excited about the opening of the Polk County Sports Hall of Fame, of course, at the Lake Myrtle Sports Park in Auburndale, right off of Berkeley Road. And Roy alluded to it before. We've held the event for around 16 years, but it was a Hall of Fame in name. We had Hall of Famers, and of course, we had the All Sports Awards, but we didn't have a physical location for the museum where the Florida Sports Hall of Fame was. They moved up to the Visitor Information Center. Now that area in Tourism and Sports Marketing headquarters on the first floor. Hank Longo and Mary Roberts have done a great job, and they're working to transform that. And next Thursday, 12 noon, August 25th, we're going to officially open the Polk County Sports Hall of Fame.
People want to come. What can they do?
They can give us a call, 863-551-4750, and ask for Mary, and she'll put you on the list.
Well,
it's as easy as that.
Great opportunity. NFL stars, NBA stars, Major League Baseball stars, and then, of course, coaches. Yeah, it's just a phenomenal group.
I have one word that represents the Hall of Fame in the group that's in there: ridiculous. The amount of talent that is in this county.
I've said it for years.
Some partners that
Polk County is not normal when it comes to talent. It's just not.
Some partners that made this show possible: Hampton Inn, Winter Haven, Sunsplash Vacation Homes, Harborside there in Winter Haven, Spectra, and Contempo Vacation Homes.
No, great folks. Well, everybody, our next live show September 2nd, Friday. Neal and I will be back. Actually, I will not be here. I have other places to be and things to do, people to see. But you can check it out live. Neal, you probably have Hank Longo with you. Yeah. Some great action coming up, everybody. Stick around. More on PGTV. This is Mark Jackson for Neal Duncan and the wonderful production crew at PGTV. You know, and kudos to Mayanne Nelson. Put a great team together. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you again next time.